Hello and welcome back. Join us for another walk through Rome. Today, we'll uncover the secrets of the ancient city, stroll through the imperial forums, and pause at the picturesque Capitoline Hill. This is a unique itinerary filled with history and unforgettable views, planned for a full day of exploration. Up next is route number 2, Eternal Rome, tracing the Republic and Empire. We'll start our journey at Piazza del Colosseo, home to one of antiquity's most iconic landmarks, the Colosseum, also known as the Flavian Amphitheater. This is where our time travel adventure begins, taking us back to the golden age of the Roman Empire. Let's get started. The massive amphitheater was built in the heart of the city at the initiative of Emperor Vespasian, the first ruler of the Flavian dynasty. While such structures were typically located on the outskirts of cities, often near natural hills, this one stands in the city center, nestled in the valley between the Cillian, Esquiline, and Palatine hills. Vespasian deliberately chose this location because it had previously been claimed by Nero following the Great Fire of Rome. Nero used the area to construct his extravagant personal residence, the Domus Aurea, or Golden House, a luxurious palace featuring groundbreaking technological innovations that amazed ancient chroniclers. Today, archaeologists are gradually uncovering the remains of this palace in a nearby park, where an underground museum, the Domus Aurea, is located. The Colosseum was built on the site of an artificial lake that had been the focal point of Nero's estate, centered around a colossal statue of the emperor himself. Over time, the statue was reimagined as the god Helios, and the lake was drained to make way for the amphitheater. Constructed in just 10 years, it was founded by spoils from the Roman Jewish wars and the labor of war captives. The Flavian Amphitheater opened around AD 80, with games lasting 100 days, during which nearly 9,000 wild animals were killed. The Colosseum is impressive in size, with its elliptical shape measuring 188 by 156 meters. Over 100,000 cubic meters of travertine stone were used in its construction, laid without mortar and secured with 300 tons of iron clamps. Its design incorporates arches as structural elements, reducing the building's weight and enhancing its stability. The Colosseum outer ring consists of 80 arches, supported by pillars, forming three levels topped with an attic adorned with irregularly spaced windows. Bronze statues of deities were placed in the arches on the second and third levels. An innovative retractable roof system, the velarium made of canvas sails, was operated by skilled sailors. This innovated system not only shielded spectators from the sun and rain, but also directed breezes towards the arena. The amphitheater could accommodate up to 80,000 spectators, who could quickly find their seats thanks to numbered entrances and rows. The sitting arrangement reflected the social hierarchy, with the emperor and senators occupying the lower tiers, and women and slaves relegated to the uppermost levels. Beneath the arena lay an intricate system of tunnels, trapdoors, and lifts, known as the hypogeum. This allowed for the preparation of spectacular shows, including not only the famous gladiatorial combats, but also recreations of natural landscapes with forests and wild animals, and even naval battles. However, it remains uncertain whether the arena could truly be sealed watertight for such events. Following the transfer of the capital to Constantinople, the Colosseum fell into decline. Gladiator combats were banned in AD 438 by Emperor Valentinian III, and the last recorded games were held in AD 523 under the Ostrogothic king Theodoric the Great. Over time, earthquakes, fires, and looting of materials for other construction projects contributed to its slow destruction. It was during the Renaissance that artists and humanists, inspired by ancient writers and historians, recognized the ruins as the Flavian amphitheater. In 1675, during the Holy Year, a papal decree declared the Colosseum a site of Christian martyrdom, protecting it from further demolition. In 1750, Pope Benedict XIV had Stations of the Cross and a cross installed in the Colosseum. A marble plaque commemorating the popes, particularly Benedict XIV, who in 1744 prohibited the removal of marble from the amphitheater, was placed on the first level beneath the Valadier terrace. To this day, a Good Friday Stations of the Cross ceremony, led by the Pope, is held at the Colosseum. Today, the Colosseum attracts millions of visitors from around the globe. In 2023, it welcomed over 12 million tourists, making it the most visited museum in Italy. Near the entrance to the Colosseum stands the Arch of Constantine the Great, the largest surviving triumphal arch from antiquity. Rising 21 meters tall, with walls 7.4 meters thick, it is distinguished by its rich sculptural decoration. Although dedicated to Constantine, most of its reliefs and statues were repurposed from earlier monuments, honoring emperors Trajan, Hadrian, and Marcus Aurelius. The heads of these rulers were replaced with images of Constantine, perhaps due to time constraints. The Senate had just 2 years to complete the arch, or as a symbolic gesture of respect for the emperors Constantine sought to emulate. Erected in 315 AD, the arch commemorates Constantine's 10th anniversary as emperor and his victory over Maxentius. During the Middle Ages, it became part of a fortress built by the Frangipani family, who occupied the Colosseum. Above the side passages, there are two medallions from Hadrian's time, while the attic features statues of Dacians vanquished by Trajan, along with a dedicatory inscription expressing gratitude to Emperor Caesar Flavius Constantine Maximus. From here, we'll continue to the Roman Forum, the ancient city's central square. Its main street, the Via Sacra, Sacred Road, was once the route for consuls, generals, and emperors dressed in triumphal robes. This was also the path for grand victory processions. The Roman Forum was once the bustling heart of Rome's commercial, religious, and political life. Today, the area showcases remnants of temples and sanctuaries, silent witnesses to the countless events that shaped the history of the Republic. The largest religious structure in the Forum is the Temple of Venus and Roma, commissioned by Emperor Hadrian between 121 and 141 AD. It was built on a monumental podium measuring 100 by 140 meters, allowing it to dominate the sacred road. Hadrian personally designed the temple, showcasing his mastery of symbolism. The name Venus evoked amor, love, which, when reversed, spells Roma. Thus, the temple symbolically united love and the city in a single sanctuary. The temple's interior was adorned with rich decorations inspired by Roman mythology. Its marble floors featured intricate geometric patterns, and numerous details highlighted the craftsmanship of ancient artists. The temple was surrounded by two porticos, of which only fragments of columns remain. It exemplifies the harmony of architecture and symbolism, so prized by Hadrian. Reconstructing the original appearance of the Roman Forum from its surviving ruins requires considerable imagination. One of the oldest artifacts discovered there is the Urbis Romi, known as the Navel of the World, symbolizing the city's center. It was the point from which distances to other major cities of the empire were measured and was believed to be a link between the worlds of the living and the dead. Nearby is the rostra, the ancient speakers' platform, from which orators address the assembled populace. The forum is also home to the famous lapis niger, or black stone, traditionally believed to mark the spot where Romulus, Rome's legendary founder, was either killed or taken to the heavens. The Roman Forum endured many calamities throughout history. It was devastated by the Visigoths during the sack of Rome in 410 AD and suffered further destruction in the earthquake of 851 AD. During the Middle Ages, the Forum fell into decline, with its ruins repurposed as building materials. By the 18th century, the area had deteriorated to the point where cattle grazed among its remnants. Excavation and restoration efforts began in the early 19th century and continue to this day, gradually revealing the splendor of ancient Rome's glorious past. The next section of the Roman Forum lies across the Via dei Fori Imperiali and borders the Forum of Trajan, the last and most magnificent of the imperial forums initiated by Julius Caesar. The design of Trajan's Forum is attributed to Apollodorus of Damascus, a renowned Roman architect and engineer. The construction of this complex was financed with spoils from the Dacian campaigns in 106 AD. The Forum was officially inaugurated in 112 AD, followed a year later by the erection of Trajan's Column, commemorating the emperor's victorious campaigns in Dacia. The column was crafted from stone drums with a diameter of approximately 3.7 meters, likely lifted into place using cranes. Its total height, including the base, is 35 meters. Originally, a statue of Emperor Trajan stood atop, but it was removed by Christians in 392 AD, and in 1587 replaced by a statue of St. Peter created by Giacomo della Porta. The interior of the column is hollow, containing a spiral staircase that leads to the top, which in ancient times served as a vantage point. Its most striking feature is the spiral bas-relief band that wraps around it 25 times. If unrolled, this band would stretch to 200 meters in length. It depicts 155 scenes narrating the two Dacian wars, from preparation to triumphant victory. Emperor Trajan appears dozens of times, surrounded by over 2,500 sculpted figures. After Trajan's death in 117 AD, the column became his mausoleum, housing the ashes of the emperor and his wife Plotina. Our next destination is Capitoline Hill. Along the way, we'll pass the Vittoriano, which is explored in detail during the first walk. Welcome to Rome. Let's pause here briefly to examine part of a structure uncovered during the construction of the Altare della Patria. The structure is an insula, an ancient Roman apartment building, one of many that once filled the city. Made of brick and likely dating to the 2nd century AD, it had 5 stories and was part of a larger complex with an internal courtyard. One wall features an apsidal fresco of Christ surrounded by Mary, a remnant of a medieval church dedicated to St. Blaise, which occupied the upper section of the original insula. Alongside the fresco, fragments of a Romanesque bell tower have also survived. At Capitoline Hill, atop a steep marble staircase of 124 steps, stands the Basilica of Santa Maria in Arachili, Our Lady of the Altar of Heaven. The steps, built in 1348 using marble from various ancient structures, were a gesture of gratitude to the Virgin Mary for sparing the city from the plague. It was believed that climbing them on one's knees brought healing. Inside the basilica is a remarkable statue of the infant Jesus, adorned with an ornate robe and crown. This 15th century sculpture, crafted by a Franciscan monk from Olivewood, sourced from the Garden of Gethsemane in Jerusalem, was venerated for centuries. Today, a replica is on display as the original was stolen in the late 20th century. Nevertheless, the statue is still believed to possess miraculous healing powers. Next to the steps of the basilica lies another staircase, much wider and more accessible for climbing. Italians call it the Cordonata, as it is gentle enough to be ascended on horseback. Designed by Michelangelo Buonarroti at the request of Pope Paul III for Emperor Charles V's visit. Construction began in 1536 and was completed 100 years later under Pope Alexander VII. Midway up the Cordonata stands a green patinated statue of Cola di Rienzo, a 14th century folk hero and early advocate for the unification of Italy. At the top of the staircase are magnificent statues of the mythological twins, Castor and Pollux, as well as figures of Constantine the Great and his son, Constantine II. The Cordonata leads to a piazza, also designed by Michelangelo. On either side are 2 identical palaces, with balustrades and statues on their roofs. At the center of the square is an equestrian statue of Marcus Aurelius, standing on a pedestal designed by Michelangelo. This statue survived the ages because it was mistakenly believed to represent Constantine the Great. Created to commemorate Marcus Aurelius' triumph over Germanic tribes, the sculpture depicts the emperor with his hand raised in a gesture of authority, and his horse in mid-stride. The original, once gilded, is now in the Capitoline Museums to protect it from the weather conditions outside. The Capitoline Museums, among the oldest public museums in the world, were established in 1734. They feature ancient sculptures, mosaics, inscriptions, as well as medieval, Renaissance, and Baroque artworks. The Pinacoteca, added in 1748, showcases paintings by masters such as Caravaggio and Titian. Around the corner from the Palazzo Sanatorio stands the iconic Capitoline Wolf. This is a replica of an earlier statue, believed to have survived into the Middle Ages. The original wolf sculpture can be seen in the Capitoline Museums. The final building on the square designed by Michelangelo is the Palazzo Sanatorio. This three-story structure features a balustrade with statues on its roof and mirrored stairs at its base. At the foot of the stairs are two statues representing rivers, the Tiber on the right and the Nile on the left. Completing the composition is a niche with a statue of the goddess Roma. Capitoline Hill became the seat of Roman government in the 12th century, and after Michelangelo's renovation, it transformed into a center of secular authority. Our next stop is the Theatre of Marcellus, whose construction was initiated by Julius Caesar and completed in 13 BCE under Emperor Augustus. The theatre was dedicated to Augustus' nephew, Marcus Claudius Marcellus, in his memory. Lacking a male heir, Augustus saw Marcellus as his successor. Tragically, Marcellus died prematurely at the age of just 21. The Theatre of Marcellus is the best preserved Roman theatre. Like the Colosseum, it is a freestanding structure, but built on a circular plan. It consists of three tiers, each featuring 41 travertine arches. The theater stands 32 meters high, with a diameter of 130 meters, and could accommodate approximately 15,000 spectators. It was renovated during the reign of Vespasian as part of the construction of the Colosseum. After the 4th century, the theater fell into disrepair and became a source of building materials. In the Middle Ages, it was transformed into a fortress, and during the Renaissance, it became the Palazzo Savelli, the residence of the Savelli family. Today, the building houses private apartments. As recently as the early 20th century, butcher shops occupied the arcades of the first tier. Next to the theater, you'll find three columns from the Temple of Apollos Oceanus, originally built in 433 BCE. These columns were discovered in the area and reassembled in 1940 as part of efforts to restore the memory of this and neighboring temples during the early 20th century. Nearby stood the Temple of Bellona, the goddess of war, constructed around 295 BCE. Extraordinary sessions of the Roman Senate dedicated to military matters were held here, and foreign ambassadors were received within its walls. In front of the temple stood the Columna Bellica, column of war, where a spear was symbolically thrown to declare war. In this area, two important temples stood in the 2nd century BCE: the Temple of Juno, the protector of women, and the Temple of Jupiter Stator, the king of gods and ruler of the heavens and earth. Around 20 BCE, Emperor Augustus redeveloped the entire complex, dedicated it to his sister, Octavia. Octavia was also the wife of Mark Antony, and this grand gesture was a form of recompense after Antony divorced her, expelling her and their children from their home under the influence of Cleopatra. The complex included two libraries, Greek and Latin, housing extensive literary works and collections of sculptures. After the Great Fire of Rome, the complex was restored by Emperor Domitian and later renovated again in 203 CE by Emperor Septimius Severus. Although little remains of the original complex, the ruins of magnificent Corinthian columns owe their survival to the Church of Sant'Angelo in Pascheria, built on the site in the 8th century and incorporating elements of the ancient structure. Ancient Rome is not merely a collection of ruins. It is a testament to the genius, ambition, and spirit of a civilization that shaped the world as we know it today. Thank you for joining us on this journey to the heart of ancient Rome. The story continues, and Rome still speaks of its rich history. Join us in future installments to uncover more fascinating corners of the Eternal City.